A pleasant Thursday afternoon, September 26th, 2024. Welcome into Grant and Danny on the Fan. We are taking you up to 6:30 tonight. Just 2 hours of programming for you on G&D, and then we'll keep it live and local in the nation's capital with overtime deep into the evening. With the Nats having already played, already lost today, it's our time to shine on the Grant and Danny radio program. Hello, Daniel.
What's up, buddy? What a soupy, humid, gross day today. Just dumb. That's all. That's all I got for you. It's disgusting.
I went to the game.
Yeah.
My son asked a couple of days ago if we could go to a Nats game.
Which is awesome.
Very cool. One of the first times he's ever done that. And because I could say yes for another week, I decided we kind of had to make it happen. And because they have early bedtimes, today was the day to do that. So the kids came out to the ballpark with the wife. We had 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and baby in stroller. And they wanted to climb all over me, sit on my lap.
Yep.
They all looked like they had just come out of the woods after 10 hours unattended to, just sweaty hair, flopping around. But they have to touch you so much, you know? I love my kids, but it's the touching, it's the sitting on you. It was just too hot for all of it. The good news is we didn't spend a whole lot on food. The Nats, I tip my cap once more. Kids eat free all season long. So we got the free brown bag lunch with the hot dog and the chips and the water for the kids. The only thing I had to get them was ice cream. And the person at the ice cream stand was kind enough to divvy up that one $10 bowl into 2 bowls for your boy.
Oh, here we go.
So we even saved on that. So victories all over the place, except between the lines.
Right.
But we were winning off of the field today.
Indeed, sir. Indeed, Bruce would be proud. And then the lovely fam stopped by here in the studio.
They did.
And grappled a little bit with Uncle Danny.
There was a lot of roughhousing with Uncle Danny.
There's different style of uncle. There's the Chris Russell style uncle where it's like, hey, you guys, I put a quarter behind your ear. And he's yelling and everyone's sure what the production is.
He is quarter behind the ear uncle.
Then there's, why don't you come over here and punch Uncle Danny's arm? And then I'll pick you up and turn you upside down. And now all of a sudden there's sound effects and we're webbing each other. That's kind of, that's my style of uncle. You know who's over it are my nieces. Not into it anymore.
Oh, well, this was the first time these guys had played some of those games.
Mm-hmm.
So not only
it's all fresh to them. It's fresh material.
Not only are they loving the material, I'm going to get requested to now use them as vacuum cleaners.
Oh, totally.
I don't know if I'm in game shape. I don't know if I've got that in me.
You can do it. What you have to do when you turn the kid upside down, you make them kind of sound effect, like you're cleaning the floor with their head.
Was that the race car driving by?
No. So the race cars, right? That's your race car, right?
Yeah.
Your truck at a truck stop is like that one, right? The vacuum is like you're going back and forth on the carpet.
And then how would Weed Whacker compare?
I don't know. Can I do a Weed
Whacker? I feel like Weed Whacker is feels more like gas run version of that.
I don't think I could do that. I tell you what, let me go listen really close to a Weed Whacker.
You don't have a Weed Whacker in your portfolio?
I probably should. That's embarrassing.
When's the last time you weed whacked?
What's today? Today's the 26th. About 2 weeks ago.
True story. And I'm not proud of this.
Okay.
But my neighbors will tell you this is true. I haven't weed whacked when I cut my grass in years. I'm the guy that just leaves I do a really good job up until the stones on the garden or whatever. I don't own a weed whacker. I find weed whackers to be, I don't know what I do that's wrong. I go through the string constantly. The string always falls out. I can't keep the string in. You want to talk about my Eleanor Nicolas Cage trying to steal the Shelby GT? The thing I've never been able to figure out that it seems like no one else has a problem with, weed whackers. There was one time when I lived in a small townhouse where I had a plug-in, basically electric weed whacker that didn't rely upon string. It had almost this metal bar of a cutter that.
Well, I feel like that's so dangerous. Is it?
I mean, they sold
I don't
it
know
to
anything.
Me.
Yeah,
somebody made it.
Because they sold it to me.
They didn't recall it, so I don't think people were dying. I don't know, but that was the only time, and I don't even know whatever happened to that thing. The battery went bad probably, and I just stopped using it. But yeah, I have gone years at a time without weed whacking. Not proud of that, but it's just kind of where we are.
I bought the combo that uses the same rechargeable battery, weed whacker / leaf blower. Right. So it's you recharge the battery and it's got a slot for each one that's for the same battery.
I just hate those. Where do you keep the battery? In your garage?
Yeah.
I'm so bad. Anything that's like battery operated, the battery will be lost in no time.
Just pummeled.
There's just no way.
This thing's the size of your head. It's not going anywhere. I mean, it's one of the more substantial units.
I still
so to
just can
speak.
never find anything.
Yeah, I have. I'm right there with you. But I really like weed whacking. I'm basically, I can't stand the side of them. My wife doesn't care really that much. She's like, do it, don't. It doesn't really matter. To me, like they're yelling at me. Like they're telling me that I'm wrong. They're like, hey, you zilch, you don't accomplish very much. And if your wife wasn't around, you'd accomplish nothing. So I'm taunting you. And I'm like, you know what? I can beat that weed. I can destroy that weed in my yard.
Highlight of the game today.
Mhm.
Ovation for Corbin.
That was neat.
We talked about it on Nat's post game just a few minutes ago, but it was I thought a respectable moment from the fan base, and it was a prideful moment for me. One of those, this is a good look for us.
Mhm.
Like I saw Bobby Witt Jr. in the Royals dugout. I was behind the visitors dugout, a handful of rows up with the kids. And I saw them kind of talking to each other and like pointing over toward Corbin. They're probably going, what in the hell's this about? This guy just pitched a mediocre game and has an ERA of about 6. But I'm sure somebody knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Final start, final year, 6-year contract, helped win the World Series, 2 players left. And he's the easiest punching bag in the world. And I've been taking some of the swings. I get it. I think we all have taken our turns.
Yeah, the jokes write themselves.
But if I could be an old man for a second and get on my soapbox, at a time in sports and in life when the little things have never mattered less, showing up, caring about doing your job, like the stuff your dad talked about, your curmudgeonly uncle, gives the millennials, guff about, just punching the time card and saying you're going to be somewhere at the right time and then showing up before you're supposed to be there and never screwing anybody over. Like the baseball version of those things is what Patrick Corbin did. Now, he didn't pitch well enough. That's his crime. And I totally get that. It was bad for the last, count them, 5 years. He was the worst pitcher in baseball. If 2019 didn't happen, then we could have a different conversation, but it did.
It did.
And everyone says, well, he was the worst pitcher. I mean, there were other pitchers that were worse, and there are other pitchers who were equally as bad, who never pitched as much as him, so you don't know it. Because they were terrible and the team said kick rocks, or they were terrible and got sent down, or they were terrible and got cut. And in Corbin's case, because of his contract, like Top Gun, they just kept sending him up. And I think it's admirable to just kind of keep taking the assignment, knowing you can't fly the jet.
Yeah, I mean, you got cases a month ago or so where David Martinez is going, yeah, no matter what, Patrick Corbin's throwing 100 pitches tomorrow because the bullpen's wiped out.
How lonely a feeling is that?
When
you have lost it, you don't have it, you know it's not going to go well, and there's going to be thousands of people watching you, booing you, angry at you, as you just keep standing on that mound all by yourself.
Yeah, getting shelled or not, it's lonely out there. There's nobody coming to help you. Yeah, the level of professionalism I think is important. It was a good example for his teammates. They adore him, understandably. He also he and his wife made a huge donation to the Nats Youth Academy. I think there's a scoreboard now that's in his family's name. That's part of it.
Did he name it the Grant and Danny scoreboard on our behalf?
I think he named it. Maybe it's the Corbin scoreboard. I don't know.
Ooh, weird choice.
Yeah,
should have gone with the Grant and Danny
would have been nice
Youth Academy scoreboard.
Mm-hmm.
For like the 4 interviews we did with him.
Yeah, a couple of times you talked to him at spring training that time.
Over 6 years.
Yeah.
It is officially G&D now on the Fan. The Nats are in the rear view. So let's get to a little preview of tonight. We got an NFC East collision in prime time. Week 4 kicks off in the NFL. Thursday night football. Cowboys, Giants. Let's tee that up next on the Fan.
Is going to give him the baseball. Davey pats him on the chest and then pats him on the side of the cheek and makes the signal to the bullpen. And Nationals fans all around Nationals Park are coming to their feet to salute Patrick Corbin for the final time.
Welcome back, Grant and Danny on the Fan. The Nationals lost to the Royals. Your pals now keeping you company until 6:30. Let's turn the page. The NFL gets going tonight, week 4, and it's the NFC East taking center stage in prime time again on Thursday Night Football with the Cowboys and the Giants. This game feels like a gotta-have-it game for Dallas. The Cowboys came into the year expected to win the division. It was going to be them or Philly, the two teams at the top of the East. They are 1-2. They have now lost back-to-back games. They got embarrassed by the Saints. And even though they lost close to Baltimore with the comeback, they actually weren't really that close in that game for the majority of the day anyway. They played pretty much 3 bad quarters. So, Danny, now you're looking at the Giants this weekend. If you can't beat the Giants tonight on Thursday Night Football, they've got the Steelers, Lions, 49ers, Falcons coming up. All teams better than New York. All teams probably as good as at least one or both of the teams they've lost to. This thing could go really badly for them really fast after paying CeeDee Lamb, paying Dak. They already came into the season placing their head coach, Mike McCarthy, on the hot seat. They lose tonight. The hourglass begins on McCarthy.
They're in dire straits. Now, I could also see them ripping off a win tonight and then, getting mildly hot to, do what they've done the last couple of seasons and get the double-digit wins. What's happened, though, with this franchise is they haven't gotten better, right? They've kind of had to stand pat because of these massive contracts they've had to hand out, and then there's, maybe 1 or 2 more coming. So they've gotten sort of worse around the edges, and that's really starting to show up here as they've, gotten off to this really, really sluggish start. They're not bad yet, but they're also not that good. Maybe as other teams are kind of getting better and there's some attrition and some of the guys they're counting on are a little bit older, a little bit more chipped away, a little bit more injured, a little bit less explosive. And here they are, as you said, on the road on Thursday Night Football where weird stuff happens. I mean, it's a short week and it's a divisional game where the Giants haven't looked as terrible as I thought they would. This might be a slugfest, and you're getting one the following week from Pittsburgh. They are in a tough spot right here. If they end up 1-3 headed to Pittsburgh, can you imagine the chaos?
I mean, look, obviously they should win. They're 5.5-point favorites. But when teams are favored by more than 5.5 points against the spread this year, they're now 2-14. I mean, against the spread, that is. But the season's been utterly unpredictable, is my point. Like, the underdogs have hung. Teams like the Giants in matchups like this have performed really, really well. Either straight up, see Washington against Cincinnati, or just keeping the game really close. In fact, the biggest statistical underdog in the NFL has won in all 3 weeks. Week 1, New England over Cincinnati. Week 2, it happened. And then week 3 with the Commanders over the Bengals. So something to think about going into Thursday Night Football. I just think the Giants have actually looked better than the Cowboys for 2 straight weeks now. Doesn't necessarily have to mean a whole lot, but in week 2, when the Giants lost to Washington, basically because they didn't have a place kicker, the Cowboys were busy just getting their chest kicked in. And the Browns hosting the Giants this past weekend when New York won 21-15 made that game closer late than it looked like it was going to be early on, but they didn't really have answers for Malik Neighbors, who's been unbelievable. That might be what I'm most happy about tonight, is to get to see Malik Neighbors for 4 quarters in prime time without multitasking with 10 or 12 other games. Do you realize he's leading the NFL in targets as a rookie?
Yeah, there's nothing else on that offense that's worth a damn. So they're force feeding him. Yeah.
The other part of it, though,
and he's good.
He's damn good. Mm-hmm. He's got 37 targets. He is chewing up 48% of their receiving yards individually as one guy. Mm-hmm. Almost half of their passing yards have been to Malik Neighbors, who's on pace for, I think I looked this up yesterday, so it's not exact, but it's something like this. Over 130 catches and over 1,500 yards. We saw Jaden Daniels put on a show when he got his chance the other night. This is the other rookie who looks like a potential rookie of the year so far in the NFL. He gets his opportunity with the country watching this evening.
Yeah, I mean, he's almost averaging 8 catches per game. You do some quick math on that, and, he's as you said, over 130 catches and just outstanding numbers. He's terrific. So that's the challenge for an opposing defense. Is basically he's lining up everywhere. Whatever we do, we have to worry about him. You don't have to worry about Wan'Dale Robinson or Darius Slayton or Tyrone Tracy or Daniel Bellinger or anybody else on that roster because it ain't good. Now, Singletary's fine in the running game, and they've actually been better there than I thought they'd be. Nothing dynamic or remarkable.
That's not going to stop tonight because the Cowboys are the worst run-stopping team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, but to me, run games stop themselves, right? You could see these dominant run games. Like, look at these run totals. Like Green Bay ran for 1 million yards and scored 16 points a couple of weeks ago. Those drives will end up stopping themselves, whether it's a procedure penalty, whether it's holding something, a stuff run, somebody makes a play. To me, it's about, can you slow down? Can you stop? Can you neutralize to some degree Malik Neighbors? You win the football game, I think, if you're Dallas.
Other side of the ball, biggest storyline is trying to get CeeDee Lamb going for the Cowboys, and then that defense. Mike Zimmer in week 1 was lauded for the plan he put together against the Browns, but we've figured out subsequently that the Browns are just not that good. And in the 2 games since against the Saints and the Ravens, the Cowboys have gotten embarrassed defensively. Over a 2-week span, they've been arguably the worst defense in the league right there with Washington. And now, we just had a guest on yesterday breaking down the Cowboys when we blitzed the East. The storyline is maybe Mike Zimmer's had the game passed him by. So it's a big night for him as well. I mean, you got to find a plan to slow down the Giants. It shouldn't be that hard. It's, as you said, one receiver in Neighbors, and it's Daniel Jones at quarterback, and they're going to hand the ball off to Singletary a bunch, who's normally between 16 and 20 carries.
They could also use a fast start, talking about Dallas, by the way. Like, it feels like they've sleepwalked through a couple of these games. New Orleans, they never got back into it. Baltimore, they had a furious rally late in the game, but if they play with a lead, I'd like to see what it looks like.
More on Thursday Night Football before we get out of here in the 6 o'clock hour. Next, has your thought on what the Commanders could be this season changed at all based on their Monday night performance? Let's get to that on Grant and Danny here on The Fan. G&D, welcoming you back on The Fan after day baseball right here on 106.7 The Fan this afternoon. We're going to take you all the way up to 6:30 tonight. Shorter show than normal, overtime, deep into the evening, live and local this evening. I want to remind you that this show is sponsored today and every day by our friends Condori and Murad, that law firm. Just sent us out to Cincinnati. We hung out with those guys for a few days. They're good eggs. They're going to square you and your family away. Get you set up with a last will and testament. Set up a trust for you and your family as well. Schedule a free consultation with their estate planning attorneys. Visit kmlawyers.com. Tell them we sent you. They'll get you a discount. kmlawyers.com. Danny, you know how much I pride myself on not being reactionary?
Yeah.
And on not trying to allow something amazing, whether it's positive or negative, something abnormally good or bad, to influence how I feel in a small sample. Man, is it hard not to let Monday night change the eye line a little bit on this season.
Your imagination running away with you is not ridiculous after Monday night.
The question we want to pose on the phones, and they're wide open for you at 800-636-1067 right now on G&D. Does that Monday night win, whether it's Daniels' performance, the offense going a second straight game without punting, the fact that in a hostile environment, the Commanders put on a clinic with the football, just how they handled themselves, does any part of it change how you feel about this season, your prediction for what they're capable of win total-wise this season?
Absolutely. 100%. I didn't think they had that offensive performance in them at any point in time. I didn't think you could take advantage of a bad defense. I thought they were the get-right week for everybody. It's to the point where, you know, in some big money fantasy leagues that I'm in, that I co-manage with one of my good buddies, they were one of the teams that we had listed as, let's stream a defense against them. Let's treat them the way we would treat the Giants or the Jaguars now, or the Panthers when Bryce Young was quarterback, etc., because they're not going to score very much because they're so limited. That's not the case. This offense has gotten steadily better each week. The week before was a great sort of, kind of harbinger for this, where they didn't punt, they moved up and down the field, and red zone sabotaging, but their own doing, prevented touchdowns. Well, you take away some of those sabotages, and you score a bunch of touchdowns. You never stop scoring touchdowns, apparently, if you're this offense. Now, they're not getting 38 points a week. This isn't the greatest show on turf, Rams, but I didn't think they had that ceiling. I thought their ceiling was a lot lower. So egg on my face. So yeah, I have certainly upped kind of what I view as their offensive ceiling, because I've just seen it. That was tremendous, and I didn't think they'd get there all year.
I would be lying if I said Monday night has not changed how I feel about this season and what they're capable of this season. Jaden Daniels in week 1 and week 2 was basically exactly what I thought he was going to be early this year. Jaden Daniels in week 3 blew me away, which isn't to say that I didn't think he would make the throws that he made, although those are low percentage throws and they were amazing. I've always kind of, like everybody else, you watch him in college, you see the arm talent is there. You go out to one training camp practice, you can see he's immensely accurate. He's got that. It's never been a question of can he do it in terms of standing in the pocket and making throws. It's does he want to do that? What does he want to be? Does he want to be a throw-first quarterback, or does he want to take off and run 16 times like he did in his first game ever? And that's kind of what I was, and still, to some extent, am curious about. But he can obviously do everything you need him to do with his arm. But I think week 1 and week 2, Jaden Daniels, and week 3, Jaden Daniels are two very, very different guys in terms of the decision-making. Running versus throwing, leaving the pocket to reset to throw versus just head down, taking off, trying to go get yards with my feet. Just a different guy. That performance coming this early in his career, maybe it ends up being an outlier in a month and it was just a fun thing. I think it has to change how you feel. That was a really special quarterbacking performance. Similarly, I was skeptical of Cliff Kingsbury. I still have questions about Kingsbury, but through a couple of weeks now, week 1 again, notwithstanding, but the majority, 2 of their 3 games, they've had all the answers offensively. They have moved the ball up and down the field. Now, the Bengals defense is terrible. The Giants defense is not particularly good. The one good defense they've played, they really struggled with. But you're going to play a lot of defenses that aren't that good. You get to play Dallas twice, as an example. A terrible matchup on paper for Washington. meaning from their perspective. I think it's a great matchup for the Commanders when they've got the football. That's 2 games that are going to be on your schedule.
Mhm.
Just top of my head,
Right.
there are plenty more like that, right? I think you're going to be able to move the ball on the Eagles, who aren't particularly good defensively. Those are the top 2 teams in your division. I worry about Washington's defense because I don't think it's going to get a whole lot better. I just don't think they have the personnel in the secondary to be very good. The more we watch this thing, the more it becomes evident that's going to be a year-long problem.
Yeah.
I hope they'll improve. I don't know how they couldn't.
Yeah, 1 is more than 0.
They are the 8th worst defense in terms of DVOA, which basically takes a lot of stuff out of the equation to level the playing field for how you're performing. 8th worst in the DVOA stat era ever. It's just been ugly. They're the worst cover team by far in terms of EPA per play allowed in the league. So that worries me. It's not going to come as easily as it did this past week. They're going to commit penalties like they were able to avoid. They're going to turn the ball over more than 0.
Yeah, the fumble that you recover on a miraculous play by Allegretti isn't recovered, and now all of a sudden the game is different. They've caught a couple of breaks here and there. So, yeah, things are going to equalize. I'm 100% with you.
But I think I'm actually answering 2 questions here. The question is, has your season thought on this team changed? What you think they're capable of, your prediction for the year? And to that, I have to say yes, it has. Because they are better offensively. The Kingsbury thing is working better than I thought. And Daniel's playing the game he just did.
Mhm.
I did not expect this early. The other question I started answering when I got off track there is, could they be really good? And I think that's a whole different thing. You see what I'm saying?
Of course I do, yeah.
Here's why they're not going to win 10, 11 games or whatever. That's different than, hey, you thought they'd go 7 and 10.
Uh-huh.
Or do they have a higher ceiling than that now? And I just don't know how you could have watched Monday. Maybe it's unsustainable to some extent. I get that the Bengals are over the season and they're just not as good as everyone thought. Still, people think that they're better than they are, and I don't really get it. But it's not about the Bengals. It's about Washington.
Mhm.
They are, Luke McCaffrey made plays. De'Ami Brown made plays. Terry McLaurin looked like he was 25 again. I mean, it was a really eye-openingly impressive performance where we saw the best of a lot of guys.
So here's this is how I'm viewing it. I know we're sort of answering ancillary questions based on the main question, but I think it's instructive. So before the season started, I think their offense is going to be a 2.5 or a 3, and the games that they win are Jaden Daniels miracle work, scramble 80 yards like Griffin against Minnesota, or something kind of you win a slugfest like they did against the Giants, beating another bad team who can't do anything on offense. And I thought their defense would be also like a 3 or 4 out of 10. Not good, but also not atrocious. Well, I was wrong on both counts. Their offense is a higher number than that, TBD where they finish, but it ain't a 2 or 3. And their defense probably isn't that good. Their defense is probably worse. It's probably a 1 or 1.5, even to sort of not even opponent dependent. So how we get to the record, how that affects things, that'll be kind of fun to find out. But to me, I'm going, my evaluation of their offense for the season now looks to be so completely dead wrong because I didn't think they had that in them. That's the part that I'm stressing here. Week 1, week 2, okay, we sort of, you could excuse each one. Okay, it's the first time they're spoon-feeding Jaden Daniels, trying to bring him along slow. Week 2, okay, the Giants stink. Week 3, I'm not saying the Bengals are good, but you don't do 38 points and you don't punt even against crappy defenses. There are plenty of bad defenses that force a punt here or there, that get more than 2 incompletions. There are plenty of defenses that over the last several seasons where Daniels would have had more incompletions than total touchdowns in that game. That offensive performance was so great. I'm going, okay, I was wrong about what I thought their offense was or could do.
Yeah, for me, it's actually 2 weeks too. Not just the one. It's the Giants game and the Bengals game from an offensive standpoint that have me ready to reassess a little bit through 3 weeks. So for myself, I never thought they were as bad offensively as you did. And I've never hated their personnel to the same extent that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, I wasn't high on it. Like, I didn't love it. This was not the greatest show on turf, but I really, really like the Eckler edition. He's been outstanding. I think Noah Brown is a decent enough wide receiver 2 type. The fact that he was available is a godsend. I actually think Zacchaeus, who's been very limitedly involved, De'Ami Brown can serve roles. It's not to say they're going to be good or scare anybody, but the way they use receivers, I just don't think it's going to be what they major in or care a whole lot about. It's a lot of stuff at and behind the line of scrimmage for the most part. It's going to work out. The way they've run the ball, Brian Robinson going for $130 against the Giants. The Bengals then said, okay, guess what? Brian Robinson's not going to beat us. And Washington said, cool.
No problem.
And they threw it outside. So you saw them do the thing they want to do. Then a week later, a team bow up and say, you're not going to do the thing you want to do. And Washington said, no problem. We've got another way to move the football. The fact that they've been able to zig and then zag and then zig again gives me some hope as well. So, yeah, for me, the sight line has changed. How good are they? Probably a different conversation we can have. But it would be hard-pressed, I think, to find people who shouldn't be optimistic about them maybe outkicking their coverage a little bit after a game like that Bengals game. And this is the ultimate sin as a football fan. We all know it, right? The 1 week big reaction. But that's why, to me, I go back now over what is a 3-week sample and the growth that we've seen. Let's go to the phones. 800-636-1067. There's a line open. Did Monday night, has the early part of this season changed how you feel about Washington's next 14 weeks? Let's go to Martin and Landover on Grant and Danny. Hey, Martin.
Hey, how's it going?
Great.
Barved in, but that's okay. Gentlemen, I listened to your argument your conversation, and it was making me sway my original opinion, but I'm going to have to stick with my original opinion because I just see that I already had like a really high opinion of Jaden Daniels. He was my QB number one coming out of college. I wish I had my board in front of everybody. Like, yeah, he was the guy I wanted. So I already was like high on him. I was worried about Brandon Coleman, but he looks like he's more athletic than I thought. So they might have got a hit at left tackle. So really, I'm kind of happy about that. The interior line showing a lot of promise. I was skeptical. That was actually what I was worried about. So the offense has been exactly what I thought. It's better than I thought, but I was thinking that, the offense was going to be, pretty good. I just thought they were going to be all right. That damn defense. Oh my God.
It's bad, man.
I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know if they're playing defense. Gap.
They're not. I can tell you they're not playing defense.
Are they playing
they're on that
gap?
side of the ball, yeah.
What are they doing? And I'm going to throw this on Dan Quinn and Joe Witt. Their weakness last year with the Cowboys was their run defense. And you have to stop the run first. You just have to. You'll take your lumps in the pass game, but you cannot get gassed. It's demoralizing. It is just hugely demoralizing.
Well, it is death by paper cut. Thanks for the call, Martin. Appreciate you. It is. Demoralizing is the perfect word. Because when you give up the big plays down the field in the secondary like that throw to Chase, you just feel like you don't have the Billies and the Joes. Like, you know what? We don't have the athletes. We can't hang with them. It's a scene from Remember the Titans where Ryan Gosling, like the little white corner, comes up to Herman Boone and he's like, I can't play with these guys. I can't run, whatever. That's how it feels sometimes when you're getting just toasted by better wide receivers. When you're getting just torched for 7, 10, 12, 8, 5 on the ground, which has happened at times against this defense this year, and you have no answer, you're just getting bullied. And demoralizing is the perfect word for it. But they're not good at anything.
No.
It's not like, well, they take away the run and then they get beaten in the pass. If you want to run, you could do that. But if you want to pass, you could also do that.
Yeah, what's on the whole menu's available to you guys. What would you like today?
How do you want to move the football?
The kitchen's open.
Short passing game? No problem. Throw it out that way. No one's going to tackle you. But if you want to go over the top of everybody, back behind them near the end zone, cool. There's where you're going to throw it to. Like, what can they hang their hat on defensively right now that they do at a passable level?
They're not turning people over 1 through 3 games. They're not pressuring the quarterback. That's non-existent at this point. They're not limiting big plays.
I guess
there's nothing.
They've, other than week 1, I think they've tackled pretty well. Is that fair? And I thought in week 1 they did a terrible job tackling. I do think the last couple of weeks have been better. But when you're tackling people 9 yards from the line of scrimmage,
Frankie Louvu hustles and catches guys from behind.
He leads the league in the hustle physical tackle. That's true. He's got that going for him. So his answer is he doesn't feel any better because the defense is abysmal. That's fair.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I net out, right? Where I go, the offense is way better than I thought it was going to be, and the defense is worse.
But the offense being better is way more important.
To me, certainly.
But I don't just mean in terms of the future and Jaden Daniels. I'm not even saying that. I'm saying in the way of being a good football team. If you're a great offense, you have a chance to win shootouts. Like your ceiling is just naturally higher.
Yeah, they just won one,
than if you're a bad offense. So in that net, it should still kind of come out in the wash in the plus, right? If the offense is better than you thought and the defense is worse than you thought, that's actually more ideal than the inverse.
That's
If
what
you
I would
track
take.
what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
if I had to pick, meaning one's going to be worse than you thought, one's going to be better,
Yeah.
I would pick that 100%.
Josh, Upper Marlboro on Grant and Danny. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Doing great, fellas. Yeah, I'm incredibly optimistic for a few reasons. First, just because of the competition, both that we have faced and that we will face. I know that this is not the Bengals of years past, but guys, this is, a Super Bowl caliber team 2 out of the last 3 seasons, right? And with a incredible quarterback who still has a lot of punch to him and some of the best receivers in the league. Yes, they did torch us, but we kind of hung in. And I do want to say, I feel like St. Juice is just playing with, I was at the home game, obviously watched Monday night really closely. He's playing with a little, punch. I don't know. He's got a little like vigor to him that is like, I know he's getting beat, but he's hanging in there a little bit more than I've seen before. And I know that's really squishy, but would love for you guys to react to that. But also just our competition moving forward. We should really win 5 of the next 6 games, right? I mean, they're against some either absolute scrubs or very, very beatable teams in the Browns and the Panthers and the Bears and the Giants and in the Steelers. And so the momentum coming out of that, if we've already banked 7 games heading into the more difficult part of our season, that's pretty incredible. So I think for me, it's more about the competition, playing to the level of a team like the Bengals, and then, the relatively easy competition in front of us.
Appreciate
Thank
you,
you, dude.
Josh. See, but his answer there tells you he feels a lot better
Yeah, without a doubt,
after
right?
Monday, because he's now saying, look at the schedule, look who they're playing. They're playing a bunch of scrubs. Where after week 1, if we looked at that schedule, Washington is not going to play with or not on the same level, let's say, as Pittsburgh, right? Looking at just bang through them. This Cardinals game, I now give them a really good chance to win.
They got a puncher's chance in that one.
I would go above that. I mean, to me, it'll be disappointing if they don't win this weekend after what they just did against Cincinnati, because the Cardinals are not a playoff team. They're just a meh NFC team. They're a pain in the butt to play. They play hard, but nobody thought coming into the year they're more than a 7 or so win team. The Browns don't look very good. The Ravens are off to a bad start. The Panthers stink. The Bears stink. The Giants stink. That's the schedule all the way until Pittsburgh, which is like, in November, essentially. So after week 1, when we looked at that, we're going, Cleveland's probably better, but it's a toss-up. Carolina's really bad, but can Washington take anyone for
Right.
granted?
They're doing that to us right now in Carolina radio.
The Ravens are going to bully them. And the idea now that we could look at it and go, oh, well, the Commanders should beat the Cardinals. There's no reason to lose to the Browns at home. You can maybe hang with Baltimore. You got to beat Carolina, Chicago. That answers the question that people just now view this thing so much differently, which is scary because it was only the 1 game.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could say it's 2 wins, but that's what happens in this league. When you haven't felt a loss and been humbled in like 15, 18, 19 days, you just start thinking crazy. But that's where we are now.
Yeah, but it's also, again, that ceiling makes nobody's saying now maybe the occasional, diehard or lunatic, whatever you want to call it, is going, this is who they are now, 38 points a week, doesn't matter the defense, book it. I think that's ludicrous. But to me, I didn't think they had that performance in them. So the average of the previous 3 games is a plus offense, right? That's 1 bad in Tampa, 1 solid, although,
I would even say good.
You would
they
say
just
good.
didn't finish, but they didn't punt.
So I'd say plus. And then 1 incredible. So that's overall way, 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 way better than expectations.
Totally.
So boom goes the dynamite.
Another way to say it is, if they play every game like the last game, which is sometimes I think how you view it as, just going through a schedule, like what you just saw. If they play every game like the Tampa game, they're a 4-13 team. If they play every game like the Giants game, they're a 6-11 team. If they play every game like the Bengals game, they're a 13-4 or a 14-3 team. Seriously, that's what we're talking about here. Like the nearly perfect offensive performance with the quarterback playing at an MVP level every single week, you go 13-4, 12-5. So now you're looking at it through the lens of, well, what if they got the Bengals game in the bag? Why didn't they just pack that, take it to Arizona? Now you beat them by 10.
Let's do that, yeah.
800-636-1067 is the number. Does how Washington played against Cincinnati change how you feel about this team, yes or no? Or is that dangerous? Because lest we forget, they were awful in week 1. And then in week 2, they survived a pretty bad Giants team, largely because the Giants had an injury to their kicker. They could easily have been 0-2, having played 1 pretty good team and 1 bad team. Now we're looking at this thing after 2 straight wins with a 40-point nearly victory over the Bengals. And it feels like we're starting to, as a fan base, grow in confidence. G&D on the Fan.
out their thing. I think he's very competitive, fiery. You see it on the field, but so far you haven't seen a negative play impact him or a real positive play. He just kind of does his job and wants to do it the right way. And so I think he's up there with some of the best I've been around as far as being able to play the next snap and not let good or bad affect him.
Offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury. How can you be both in your bag and talking into a microphone at the same time? Maybe the microphone is in his bag.
Maybe it's a microphone glass.
All the kids have been telling me he's in his bag, but yet he was at the podium. So maybe the podium's also in his bag. I don't know how that works.
Think about that.
Jaden Daniels, first in completion percentage, fourth at QB rating, fourth in first downs per attempt, seventh in QBR, second in quarterback rushing yards, first in quarterback rushing scrambles, first in quarterback rushing touchdowns through 3 games. Question for you is, did that Bengals gem change how you feel about this football team moving forward? Let's go to Vic and Akakik on G&D. What's up, Vic?
G&D, what's up, baby?
Hey, buddy.
So, Brent, I haven't disagreed with you in a while, but I have a slight disagreement. I do not believe if we continue to play like we played versus the Bengals that we will be a 12-5, 13-14. I believe we could be a 9-win team that could make the playoffs. I can go on record as saying this because I said this on Overtime with Doc, and I said this on Adam Epstein's show. Right now, I believe we are a at least 7+ win team that could make the playoffs, which I said last weekend. You can't make the playoffs with that type of defense. I do believe we will win more games, and I do believe we can win more than 7 games because of the ability of our offense, the coaching of our offensive coordinators. You got to remember, 4 weeks ago, we were saying the offensive line was in trouble. We were going to die. Jaden was going to get crushed, blah, 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 blah. Our offensive line has played very well.
Agreed.
Thank you. And our offensive line also has shown that we can run the football, and we want to be nasty. We want to be aggressive at the point of attack. We maul people over. We're watching it before our eyes. So that changes the tempo of a team and how teams respect you. But right now, there have been I'll leave with this. I have seen our defense be better at times that made me compare Ron Rivera's some of his defenses to ours right now and said his defenses at times were better than our defense will ever be.
Vic, I mean, and I appreciate it. Sorry to cut you off. There's no doubt about that. Here's why. Here's how I know that. Through 3 games, this is the 8th worst defense in history via DVOA during the time of that stat, which goes back decades. Now, I don't think that means this is the 8th worst defense of all time or that's where it's going to end up. But I do think he makes a credible point and a reasonable call to say, if you play the defense you played against Cincinnati, Vic's right, you cannot make the playoffs probably. I don't think there's ever been a playoff team. There are some of those Saints Breeze teams with bad defenses.
Yep.
Peyton Manning's Colts teams every single year.
Some of Mahomes Chiefs
prime
teams,
of his career, like awful. But I don't know that they've been this, which is to say when the other team gets the ball, they're going and getting points.
Yeah. One negative thing happens. You don't pick up a first down after a first down penalty, and it's 2nd and 20. Dalmy Brown doesn't make 2 ridiculous catches and run subsequently. And you don't pick up a 4th down. Like, stuff happens, right? There's going to be adversity. And if you had one negative thing take place on offense, you lose that game this past week. So, yeah, I mean, that point's well seen.
Let's go to Ed, who's in Woodbridge, home of the Vikings. What's up, Ed?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, bud.
Thank you for taking my call. So I think we can go from a 4-13 team to maybe a 7-10 or 8-9 team if the offense manages its humility. The defense is so bad that we can't score in 6 plays because then the other team comes back, they score in 3 plays. We've got to still have a level of running the ball, of ball control to keep those other offenses off. And when I say manage their humility, a lot of fans are going to be saying, oh, hey, Jaden, give us another 50-yard bomb. Do this. Yeah, well, okay, fine. We get that 50 50-yard bomb on the end of the fifth play, but then someone else comes back and they score in 2 plays. So we've got to make sure that we don't score too quickly, that we keep their offense off the field. If we can manage our humility, we can get up to perhaps 8 and 9.
And I'll take the home runs when I can get them.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never turn down the 50-yard bomb, I will tell you now. But he actually has me thinking about something, which is to say, Cliff Kingsbury loves pace. He loves tempo. I've not really connected these dots yet. I should go back and look. But I know after 1 week, Washington was the fastest offense in terms of pace of plays run in the league. I don't know where they rank after 3 games, but I do remember one time sitting in Mike Shanahan's office, asking him about tempo and pace and why don't they run more hurry up. And he was arguing about how detrimental it is to a defense. It's kind of what the caller was just talking about. I'm not saying you don't want to move the ball quickly. You always want the explosives. Bring on the big plays. I'll disagree with him on that point. But the tempo's worked. It's worked for Daniels. It's worked for the offense. It's worked to get good looks against bad conceptual either designs or packages or the wrong group of players on the field for the defense. It's worked for the offense. It probably also is fair to say, Danny, that it makes life a lot harder on the defense.
Well, to a degree, I think it only happens when you go 3 and out, though, and you ran hurry up
That's
to
fair.
do it. They
That's
had
fair.
33 minutes of time in possession against Cincinnati, 38 against New York. So to me, time in possession is effectiveness, and they punt the least of anybody.
Good point.
So
let me rephrase then. Maybe to this point, it's not an excuse. All I'm saying is if you're going tempo and not staying on the field,
it
will make a bad defense's life harder because they've stayed on the field at a rate that, by the way, will not continue. It hasn't been a problem yet, but it is something Cliff Kingsbury needs to think about. If you're going to be coaching this team and calling plays on this team with a terrible defense, maybe you've got to be a little bit of a good soldier for the coordinator on the other side.
Yeah, you're
of the
also
ball
coordinating the defense too, or you get like a half producer credit on that, right? I mean, if you're going hurry up tempo and you go 3 and out a couple of times, you can't do that again the next time, right? Because your defense is right back on the field to give up so many points.
Let's go to Eric in Silver Spring. How are you, sir?
Gentlemen, how you doing today?
Hey, buddy.
Great, thank you.
First of all, I just want to know who's the one that had the MLB gig on the radio.
I do an MLB show. Is that what you're referencing?
That's you. I knew the voice. I'm like, I know this voice, man.
That's
I'm
funny.
like,
Yes,
good
Sunday
job, man.
mornings,
Good job.
I break down the minor leagues for you.
Yes. Okay. I knew the voice sound. So let me tell you this. I know everybody wants to play the game. This is good, but I'm going to be that one game at a time guy with this team because we all know that this thing can crumble fast with this team. And I don't want to get my hopes up high and then they bring them back down. And then, by the end of October, we're talking about, so who do we draft in the first round? So
Been there.
I'm going to be, yes, we've been there. I'm just going to say this. This is when I kind of felt good about this team is when the Bengals scored and we came right back and scored on them. That's when I said, well, wait a minute, we got a different team here. Because, in the past, we would have been down either 10-0 or 14-0 going into the second quarter, and it just would have been downhill from there. So,
Eric, you're a grown-up.
Yeah, they did it 5 times, by the way. When the Bengals scored, they came back and scored.
I mean, that is such a grown-up, adult, mature way to look at it. And it's how it should be done. Like, I have seen people basically slam the gavel down on Daniels being the answer. I've seen some of the national discourse, which I find ridiculous, 3 weeks in about Caleb Williams being bad and Daniels being good and the wrong pick was made by Chicago and all this other stuff. We live in a funny time with how this league is covered. But this is the beauty of the coverage of the league, too. We have so much time to fill in the blanks. There are games every once a week, and then everyone talks for 6 days, gets themselves frothing at the mouth, and then there's another game, and we overanalyze and overbreak that one down. So there is an element, to your point, of everyone just needing to take a deep breath. And if I'm going to say that on Daniels or Williams or anything else.
Yeah, say it for the good, say it for the bad. Yeah.
I think you got to say it about maybe Washington's defense too. Look, if they could play like they did against Cincinnati a handful of times, then we can slam all the gavels down. The jury can come back in and everything can be returned. My guess is they're not going to have that performance again offensively because it's really, really hard to do. I mean, that one was once every several years kind of stuff.
Yeah, everything has to break right. everything, and it did, and it was magical, and it was fun.
We deserved that one.
Seriously, I loved it. That was a great experience being in that stadium. But like, the one time that Daniels doesn't see anything he likes, breaks free, instead of wiggling out and doing some kind of weird spin pirouette to then jog for a first down, he gets tackled and it's 4th and something. And then the snap doesn't work. I mean, things happen that are going to be adverse, and the defense right now can't make up for it. Right now, the offense is making up for everything.
I want to ask Danny this question next. We'll hear from you guys on this as well. 800-636-1067. What was your vision for the team before the season, and what is it now after 2 wins and the craziness of Monday night that nobody saw coming? This is The Fan.
emotional, hard-fought win on the road against in a hostile environment against a very solid team in the Bengals. And, just to go out there and fight it out to the end and, be on the other side of the victory meant a lot. Just see all the fans who traveled all the way out there, go out there and just show them some love, see family, and to see Doug. You just sit up there and you reminisce of Doug was doing this back in his time, and he put in the time here, man. So me and Doug had that relationship. It meant a lot.
Jaden Daniels talking Doug Williams. Welcome back. Grant and Danny on the Fan. Danny, how many wins did you have for the Commanders before week 1?
7.
So did I. How many wins do you have for them now?
That's harder. I'll say 8. So I guess it's gone up. I mean, to me, it's averaging out to a degree.
I'm leaning toward 9. Their offense has been excellent for 2 straight weeks.
Yeah.
If they can be close to as good as they were this week, like I'll just say Giants good. That's better than I thought. That might be 8. But the defense is horrific, obviously. That's where the 8 probably makes more sense. I also still, and this is not something fun to talk about, I still have a hard time envisioning Daniels playing 17. Just based on how he plays at his size. It's always been one of my biggest knocks. Everybody yells at me for the 3 things that bothered me about him coming out, which isn't to say I didn't like him. Liked him a lot. Just wasn't my number one prospect because I had 3 real big holes I couldn't get past. One of them is durability, and I hope I'm wrong. But if you were to guarantee me right now that guy plays 17, 9's in play. Like I was 7 to 8 was kind of how I felt. And now I'm 8 to 9. So it sounds like we're similar areas.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a couple things working against me going up higher than that. One, Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury's time there. They would start out like gangbusters. People would seem to figure it out, or people got tired or something.
Point.
Consistent red zone struggles there in Arizona. Didn't happen this past week, obviously, but these are kind of themes that I've been watching.
We have not talked about this at all. But for people that don't know this, because you didn't follow the Cardinals, why would you? Cliff Kingsbury's Cardinals teams as a head coach, but namely his offenses, which he was in charge of, would come out of the chute as one of the best in the league for several weeks, and almost year by year to a season, as the year went on, they would come back to the pack. It's like he would spend the offseason figuring things out, mixing potions, coming up with these plans, and then people would adjust. I also, to that point, I didn't think yesterday or Monday was ever in the cards early in the year.
Right.
But one of the things I have thought, if you remember, was Jaden Daniels is going to get off to a really fast start because the quarterbacks that are the dual threats who can run, there's just things that you can't prepare for. They've got this cheat code ability, 3rd and 4th down. And until the team makes an adjustment, you saw it with Anthony Richardson, who I don't think is good at all, last September. You've seen it with a bunch of guys. We saw it with Robert Griffin and so many others. Like the early start for these guys compared to as the year goes on and adjustments get made can be different. So that you could bring up in the same realm as like, yeah, we're seeing this now, but where are they in 7 weeks? It doesn't mean it's going to keep growing.
Yeah, in 2021, for example, there are other years too, but they started 10-2, scoring basically 30 a game in Arizona. Finished 1-5 down the stretch with only one other point total north of 25. Or it's kind of this other shoe that's lingering. Hasn't dropped. I don't know if it's going to drop, but it's something I'm thinking about.
To believe it,
yeah, it's something I'm thinking about a little bit. Again, I didn't think they had this, so I'm already upped.
Yeah, I don't think Kyler Murray ever played a game like Jaden Daniels.
No, he did not.
Played, which makes you think maybe Kingsbury's got a little something he can work with here that he didn't before. Let's go to Chudy in Gainesville on the Fan. How are you?
Well, how are you guys doing?
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, no. So, I'm like the last call. I'm taking it one game at a time. Even though last season was last season, first 4 games, Washington was 2-0. We were feeling good, and then I didn't expect us to beat Buffalo last year, but then that horrific Thursday night game with the Chicago Bears, and everybody assumed that we would win. We all know how that went. But I think the only thing that I like about these current 3 games, and moving into 4, is that aside from Jaden's growth, I like the growth of our other rookies, especially Luke McCaffrey. And I think that the more we play, the better he's going to get. So that's one thing I'm very optimistic about, having an actual additional wide receiver in a core that, has been not as bad as we initially thought, but could be better. So, having the young talent move forward. So I had them at 7 wins. I think right now I'm still at 7 wins. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you,
Judy.
dude.
Much appreciated. 40-yard gain for McCaffrey on 4th and 2 was an eye-opening play. He made a couple of really nice plays. We talked a lot about the fact that he was 3rd in the league in separation going into that game. Bet on bloodlines, one of my favorite axioms. You got a brother, you got a dad who was in the league, you know what it takes. You got people you can lean on. You've been in the clubhouse and the locker room before. Bet on bloodlines. And Brendan Coleman looks pretty good. I thought he actually had some great snaps. You can go back and watch now with the NFL Pro stuff, like whoever you want to, and lock in on them. He had a pretty strong performance.
Thought
He
he was
gave up
really
one
good.
sack, but that was kind of the play he wanted back. Otherwise, I thought at times he was big and physical and powerful. Callahan's in Minnesota listening on the Odyssey app. What's up?
What's up, guys? First time caller, long time listener.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for checking us out.
Yeah.
Jim Zorn normally isn't really ready, but if you give him a moment, he comes out of his office.
He's like, me now? Okay.
No,
and then he comes running in.
He gathers the troops.
No, you're good. I expected it, and then it delayed. So
No, you always
all
got to
good.
wait. It's a new thing we're trying, so
Yeah.
we're never really
Yeah.
prepared.
We're trying it out.
No worries, guys. But I'm 22 years old. I love this team with my heart and soul. And to say that I did not break a tear watching that game would be a lie. Jaden Daniels, man, I know it's only week 3, and I'm taking it week by week because all we've been is mediocre or below average. So I'm taking it week by week. But what I saw from him, everyone says comparison's the thief of joy. I'm always comparing QBs that we have with other stars in the league, and it's always pain and misery. But after seeing that, dude, if I'm not electric about it, I don't know what I would like. I'm blown away. Our defense, though, buns.
Well,
but other than that,
you
our
should be
offense is looking
excited,
good.
Callahan, and no one should rob you of your hope right now, in my opinion. But be excited responsibly is all I would say.
Yeah, I mean,
like it's week 3, so everyone's in this rush to figure it all out and to judge it and to scream about what should have happened with the first pick and whatever. Just watch the football. There's a lot of it still coming, and feel like if this guy keeps playing like he played in that game, he's going to be a hell of a player for a really, really long time.
Yeah, 3 things to be excited about. Daniel's performance, the sale of 500,000 brake pads, and the potential merger with Zelensky Auto Parts. That's a huge deal for Callahan.
All of those things,
huge deal.
I think.
Huge deal.
Big deals. We're taking you up to 6:30 on Grant and Danny here on The Fan. Thursday Night Football tonight, the Cowboys and the Giants. Who should Commanders fans be rooting for tonight? I think this is actually a really, really easy answer that could surprise you. That's next on The Fan. Stretch Run, Grant and Danny, an abbreviated show today after Day Nationals baseball. The DMV's football team has a bright future. It's time for you to plan for your future as well. The exclusive sponsor of this show, the law firm Condori and Murad, will help you update your last will and testament, set up a trust for you and your family, schedule a free consultation with their estate planning attorneys today. Visit kmlawyers.com. Tell them we sent you. That's kmlawyers.com. About 2 hours and 20 minutes from now, Thursday night football, and week 4 gets underway. The Dallas Cowboys, the New York Giants, the matchup tonight, little NFC East tilt in the Meadowlands, where the Giants are looking to make it 3 straight respectable performances and 2 straight wins. The Cowboys, meanwhile, at 1-2, trying to halt a multi-game skid where they have looked really, really bad against the Saints and the Ravens. Somebody tweeted me earlier today, at Grant H. Paulson for me, at Funny Danny for DR. And they said, who should we be rooting for tonight as Commanders fans? And I thought, oh, that's something funny, even worth bringing up on the show. I think this one's really easy. You got to root for the burying of the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm not saying because they're the Cowboys, you don't like them, the rivalry, whatever. To me, Dallas is the better football team. They are in a bad way right now. You don't want them to get their act together. And if they are 1-3 going to Pittsburgh next week and then hosting Detroit, there's a real good chance they'll either be 2-4 or 1-5 going into their bye week, which would mean possibly the firing of Mike McCarthy. And more importantly, the premature end of the competitive portion of their season without a huge winning streak, with games against San Francisco, Atlanta, Philly, and Houston coming up out of the bye. They could be done halfway through the year. Now you're just worried about Philly, and you've already got a tiebreaker over the Giants. So to me, this is easy, elementary, 100 level stuff. The Giants are not as good. You've beaten them once. You want the Giants to win.
Yeah, so there's 2 silos here happening. Silo number 1, you said it. You brushed past it, but it's still very important. Dallas losing is always delightful. Easy to root for that. So much fun. I love that.
Is that any different than the Giants losing?
It's not. It's a little bit more because we need to hit the Giants more as a fan base again. But I will say it's always fun to have them just panic and free fall and not know what to do and their dumb expectations not met. It's delightful. The soap operas, I love it. So that's number 1. But point 2, I think you said it very well. You're 100% right. The better team here is Dallas, right? So they're the threat. They get right, they can still do something this year. So them losing a bunch of games is great. The Giants, by the way, meanwhile, the extra bonus here is it would be perfect for them to be fooled into thinking they're better than they are and just keep this up. More Daniel Jones, more Dable, more Joe Shane, more weird nickel diming with their safeties and running backs and running this team together that they think is pretty decent. Them being fooled and lulled into like a 6-11 kind of a season would be awesome. I would love that. So give me the Giants tonight.
Pressure is on that coaching staff for Dallas and Mike McCarthy, although star receiver CeeDee Lamb says it's about the players executing.
I mean, we got to take it upon ourselves. The coaches are gonna they've done their job of preparing us for the situation, and it's on us to execute. Obviously, the thing they can do is game plan for us, put us in position, line us up, tell us where to go, what gaps to fill, what routes to run, to be physical, all these other things. But at the end of the day, when we get between those lines, it's on us. So, again, that goes back to looking at the man in the mirror. And with that being said, I don't really look at no game plan as far as to dictate the game, because at the end of the day, we got to go out there and make those plays.
Lamb's been way more quiet in the early going than I thought, especially after getting paid. First game, 10 targets, 5 catches. That was okay to me because they ran it a lot in the second half. They were up so much on Cleveland. They didn't really throw it much. They kind of packed up shop in the third quarter to start the half. But since then, they threw it a million times against the Saints because they were down by a lot. He had just 4 grabs, did go for 90 yards and a touchdown because there was a 65-yard catch and run there. The Ravens game, though, this past week, same thing. They were down. They were throwing it a lot. They were trying to come back. He was held in check 4 for 67. Had a 31-yard grab and otherwise was like 3 for 38 in the game or whatever. So you take all that into account. It's time for CeeDee Lamb to break out and have that first big performance of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the numbers. They're not bad. Nobody's saying this is bad. 13 catches for 218 yards is 11th or 12th in the league, depending on your metric or where you're looking.
73 catch season ain't what they just paid him to do.
Yeah, but this is CeeDee Lamb. This is a guy that could go for 2,000 yards if the it's 72 and sunny and there's good situations here. He's capable of so damn much, and I think it's coming. But teams I think have been pretty steadfast. When you look at their opponent tonight, for example, it's neighbors or bust. It's guys like Brandon Cooks and Tolbert and others who have had some third down catches and chain movement type stuff. Because I think everybody's keying on CeeDee Lamb, and there's no even perceived threat out of the backfield. They haven't gotten much from the tight end spot just yet. But he's so good that eventually you're going to get that CeeDee Lamb game. You're going to get that 9-catch, 213-yard, 2-touchdown situation. And maybe it's tonight because the Giants didn't impress me much defensively.
Speaking of the Giants, the other side of the matchup, the New Yorkers at home, Daniel Jones, remember after week 1, coming into that Washington contest, he was feeling the heat. His butt was burning on his seat. They wanted him benched in New York. He played well against Washington. He played even better this past week against Cleveland. So back-to-back very solid games where he hasn't turned the football over for Daniel Jones. He was talking about some of the things that have changed for them as they've gotten going.
I think, I've, played more, seen more, I think, studied and improved. So obviously didn't go great last time, but we're confident. It's a new team. We're a new team. They're a new team, and we're excited for the opportunity.
It feels to me like the Giants always get demolished by the Cowboys. Remember the opener last year between the Giants and the Cowboys was like that 40-0 drubbing? That was just so embarrassing. Week 1 at home, you kick off a new season, you come out. He got sacked, I think it was like 11 times. But the 2 games they played Dallas last year, Dallas won 49-17 and 40-0. In fact, the Cowboys have beaten the Giants in 6 straight games. The Giants have 1 win over Dallas since 2016. That's crazy.
That's nuts. That's like that when it was the then Redskins Dallas for whatever was that 7 or 8 year period where they didn't win at all. And Dallas dominated that rivalry. I didn't realize it was that bad, James.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. The Cowboys have won 13 out of 14 against the Giants.
Gosh.
And they play on national TV every year
All
at least
the time.
once. That matchup is a lock. I saw the craziest stat I've seen all season today from Trey Wingo, as a matter of fact, who's our buddy who came on our show all the time a couple years ago. Listen to this. Weirdly, tonight will be the first time in Cowboys franchise history that they're playing a road game on 3 days rest. Every other team in the NFL has done it at least 6 times. I never want to hear Cowboys fans complaining about their schedule again. I'm going to say what I just said again to make a little bit more sense.
Okay.
The Dallas Cowboys have never played a Thursday game on the road after a Sunday game. Not one single time. Every other team has done it at least 6 times. That's the worst thing you can have to do. It's the hardest.
It's the hardest thing to do.
The travel after a game to get to a place and play on Thursday stinks. When your schedule comes out, it's the first thing you thumb down the list for as a bummer, right?
Yeah. When's my Thursday? The worst possible scenario would be Sunday night game into a Thursday road game, which the league would pretty much never do.
I'd bet there are teams that have done it 9 or 10 times. Part of this to me has to be that they have Thursday Thanksgiving. So they traditionally probably get fewer Thursday games otherwise.
Oh, it makes sense.
Because you're not supposed to play 2, 3, 4 Thursday games.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's happened a lot the last few years is that the Cowboys have also had the Thursday night game after Thanksgiving now. You know what I'm talking about? So it's like back-to-back Thursday games where Washington's come and done that. But that's at home normally.
Mm-hmm.
So they do the back-to-back Thursday home thing, which is just a bigger advantage for them, in my opinion. Because oftentimes you've got a team coming off of a game traveling Sunday to Thursday for Thanksgiving, and then the same thing prior to that second game after Thanksgiving, Sunday to Thursday often.
Yeah, so this year they do the Thursday game, obviously on Thanksgiving against the Giants, and then they get the Monday night the following week, a little bit extra. So it's always just so for the Cowboys.
Just don't complain about your schedule, and we can be fine. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to hear how difficult it is for you ever when you've never had to deal with a thing everyone else has had to deal with 6 or more
Not
times.
once or twice, 6 times.
Isn't that stat crazy?
Yeah. It goes to, I won't hear any new information. I've now made up my mind. I've always thought this. That's all I need, and I'm just going to go ahead and close the file on it. The league wants Dallas to do well. They're so desperate for them to be relevant.
Let's go to Jeff, who's in New Jersey, waiting patiently. Grant and Danny on the Fan. He's listening to the Odyssey app. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, guys. So I called about the Nationals game, which was at least we scored some runs. Didn't get to see you, so Clary lied to me about you guys being there. Then it was about what's my expectation. So if I can still answer that question, or did you want to shift to the new topic?
Yeah, you're on the radio, so we're just doing the radio thing. So go ahead, man. What do you got?
All right. So I am an adult. I can have an adult conversation. I am much older than the 22-year-old who just called, and I saw all 3 victory parades. I am all in. I don't care. I have no reservations. I have decided after Monday night, we're in. We are winning the division.
Whoa.
We're getting to the playoffs. We are going to have a playoff win at home. I'm going all in.
I mean, you're just putting the Commanders' PJs on and jumping in the water, basically, Jeff.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm putting it in. I'm hanging a poster of the catch by Daniels in our bedroom. My wife's not going to like that, but whatever. And I'm in.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, okay? Because I understand the excitement and his performance. We've talked about it for a few days. I think people understand how impressed we are. It was generational. It was ridiculous. But Marcus Mariota had unbelievable games as a rookie. You know what I'm saying? Like, these things
No. GP,
happen.
GP. No. This is our guy doing something we haven't seen in so long.
I agree.
He's a good guy. So just suspend all reality and just follow me into the deep end.
That's funny.
Suspend reality is great.
The suspend reality is fine. But my point in bringing up Mariota is not to say he was anybody's guy in DC. I guess he is technically now as the backup quarterback if and when he gets healthy again. My point is to say that as a rebuttal to him going, I've seen enough. It's over. The jury can come back in. 15 years of Jaden Daniels. Like, a lot of the stuff, it's like there are only 2 quarterbacks who have ever done this. It's him and Heath Schuler. Or I'm making that up. But my point is, like, there are dudes who have had amazing games. I think Marcus Mariota had some games where it was like 15 of 15 for 222 yards and 2 touchdowns and no picks with 72 rushing yards. Especially the guys who can run around and do the dual threat thing. They present so many problems. They are oftentimes these shooting stars, and the sustainability, as I don't think I have to explain to anyone around here, is kind of the secret sauce. The ability to adjust to the adjustment. That game, while one, I would make the case in like we look at like baseball pitching and game score, right? As like, how good was the game? Here's your game score. They do the same kind of deal with quarterbacks, I think, with their different metrics. There aren't many like that, but I'm saying there are guys who have had that game that you wouldn't hook your wagon to forever. Is all, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, the fact that it's him in game 3 and he was the number 2 pick and he won the Heisman Trophy, your boy's fired up. Like, I am giddy. But if I'm playing devil's advocate, if I am talking to myself and everyone else, trying to just calm everyone down a little bit, I'd say that game does not mean it's over now for a career.
Yeah, I mean, look at Matt Flynn. Didn't he have like a 6 touchdown passing performance? He got himself paid, and then I think he was the plan, and turned out to be Russell Wilson.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did he not even start week? Did he get a season, or was Russell Wilson?
I think it was just Russell Wilson.
You're right, because he was with the Packers in that week. Then they signed him for the money and drafted Wilson in the 3rd round, and Wilson beat him out in camp. And Wilson was the day 1 starter.
Yeah, and then that was the story, right?
As a 3rd rounder. Think about that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Totally. Yeah. By the way, whoa. But like, so, and I'm not saying he's Matt Flynn. I think he's better than Matt Flynn. So when you combine pedigree, expectation, hope, progress from the first few weeks, it is 100% reasonable to be excited and hopeful. That is normal. Simply saying he had this great game, therefore, ... All I think you and I are willing to do, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, I'm going, the guy that I really like, the guy that I wanted, the guy that I'm enthusiastic about just had an outstanding game. Ta-da. I'm happy about that. I'm not going to now rubber stamp the next 15 years, hopefully, and say this is now the new normal.
I found the performance staggering. It is so good and so impressive when you go back and watch it that it makes me want to, just reassess and kind of tear everything down and start the eval over. It's so good. I just don't do the thing that everybody else does, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I just don't do the, oh my God, I saw that game, I don't need to see anything else. Because you don't have to. You don't get cookies for that. You don't get bonus points for that. They don't put money into your bank account for that. There's no reason to just make a decision after that game. But I will tell you, there aren't that many guys on the planet that can have that game. And Washington, D.C. has one of them. We found out on Monday night. Let's go to Chris in Hyattsville. What's up, brother?
What's up, guys? Hey, am I crazy, or did you guys have Michael Winslow on the show to start the show off?
It's a great bit.
Police Academy fame.
That's a great bit.
Because I've heard some really incredible sound effects, and I was like, how did they get Michael Winslow on the show? I'm a huge. If you see him, tell him big fan. Big fan.
Chris, I got to pause to explain the reference to GP. He's the guy. He was also in Spaceballs, who did all the crazy sound effects. Like he pretended to talk via megaphone without a megaphone.
I know who he is, but what does that have to do with our show?
So remember when I went that did the
I forgot
like the race car type bits? Yeah,
Good,
that's all. That was
good
the bit.
deep cut, Chris. I like that time.
Oh, that was Rouillet doing those sounds.
No, it was Michael Winslow. But he's on payroll just like Bruce.
Winslow's
just like
here when we need him.
Jim Zornis.
Guys, I am selling a hot new commodity called Commander's Futures, where I've already purchased Super Bowl tickets to New Orleans on the low, and I'm going to sell them on the high come February this year to local Washingtonians, because it's going to be the hottest ticket in town, baby.
Big business. You got to get hotels, flights. You got to do the whole deal, and then you can sell it as a package to all the Commanders fans.
And my new motto is WWJD. What would Jaden Daniels do?
No, we got that.
I got that one.
Yeah.
I was like, who's the other? Oh, Jaden.
I like that. What WWJD? We figured that one out. What would Jaden do? I got that.
I know what you meant.
How's Chris doing in the Grant and Danny Listener League, by the way? He had a brutal draft. If he's got to win, I will bake you chocolate chip cookies.
Well, you might be getting some cookies. Let's look.
In fairness, I shouldn't be throwing my weight around here. And there's a lot of it. But our team stinks.
We're scuffling.
We also we at least had a better draft than him because we have good football players. But we did the no running back thing. So we're sitting at 1-2 on the season. I just have to imagine he's got one of the worst teams in that entire league.
Right, let's go look.
Any idea, Darius, on what his record is?
His record is 0-3. He is currently 14th in the standings.
His draft, I've never seen a worse fantasy draft than what he had. Now, he was dressed like Hulk Hogan, like in uniform.
Yeah, so that was the Terry Bollea of drafts, more than it was the Hulk Hogan of drafts.
Run real quick. Nobody cares about anybody's fantasy team.
He's Rory's awkward silence.
But just for my own fun, run through his team rapid fire. It was so bad.
Lamar Jackson, Marvin Harrison, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Derrick Henry, Braylon Allen, Jake Ferguson, Ladd McConkey, Josh Downs, Christian Watson, Trey Benson, Justin Herbert,
and
Gardner
starts
Minshew.
Fine. Like the first 3 or 4 names is fine. And then there's nothing else. 0-3 is about what I would have anticipated. Can you fire up the Ryan Explains It All music, please, for me, Darius, if you don't mind?
It has been a minute.
It's been way too long. We really don't have Ryan on the air enough to explain things. So last segment, Danny, you said something. It was a movie quote. You referenced Tommy Boy. Do you remember what it was?
Oh, of course I do.
What did you say?
I said, well, we had a guy named Callahan who called us, and I was like, first of all, it's huge for him. Big day. Jaden Daniels played great on Monday Night Football. He just sold 500,000 brake pads, and there's a potential merger with Zelensky Auto Parts.
So you went to the bathroom because it was a break. So
sure.
What else would you do?
I'm going to go to the bathroom.
So we didn't see you for a few minutes, and I went into the other room to talk to these two fellers, and I said, what movie was that? Really, really easy. I said, the guy's name was Callahan, and this is what Danny said. I gave them all of that. And they didn't pull that it was Tommy Boy. Frustrating. Darius admits right away, never seen it, right? Ryan says, I've seen it. Pedestrian. Or something like that. So he does the thing that he loves to do, where he's either seen it once or hasn't seen it or seen parts of it, and then he tells you why it's not good. Like, belittles it, condescends to your generation.
Which is just great.
All those things.
It's
a lot
the
of fun.
best. It's why we love young people.
Yeah, really, really exciting time for everyone. But then I said, Ryan, have you really seen it, actually? I saw it once. I said, what's the plot? He started telling me what the plot is for 3 seconds, and I realized, save it. I want you to tell this to Danny while we're on the air.
Because remember, this all started when he had seen Squid Game and tried to explain Squid Game to us.
So imagine having seen a movie, and this is how he explained the plot to me. Ryan, without further ado, what is the plot of Tommy Boy?
Tommy Boy is that famous comedian from Saturday Night Live. I don't remember the name. What was the name? What was the comedian's name?
What do you think it was?
I don't know.
You're looking for Chris Farley.
I do know Chris Farley.
There it
Chris
is, yeah.
Farley. Chris Farley starred in it. I believe Adam Sandler had a cameo in it as well, I want to say.
That definitely didn't happen.
And maybe not. I don't know.
Like, there was not a single moment where Adam Sandler was in Tommy Boy.
And I remember, like, this one scene of, I think they hit, like, a buck on the side of the road, and there's deer antlers there and something of that sort. And that is what I remember, and it's a nubby movie.
That's pretty much the movie, actually. They hit
it's
the
a
deer.
Nubs movie.
Let me be clear. So Tommy Boy is a film.
Yes.
It starts, they run into a deer, and then it ends.
No, of course not.
But what is the plot of? What is the whole point of the movie? What is the plot?
I mean, it's about some guy named Tommy Boy,
right,
starring Chris Farley in it, and Tommy Boy, I believe, just kind of needs to mature through life a little bit, if I remember.
That's not bad.
And the best way to do it is to hit it, is to see what happens to the deer.
That was
It's a metaphor for
the
growth.
one scene that I remember is that.
When did you see this movie?
I believe it was like maybe a few years ago when you guys were hounding me about seeing older movies and trying to get into it. And I tried. I put an effort in. I just didn't like it.
I know that you didn't see it based on our recommendation because you've never watched a movie that we recommend.
No, I have. I watched Dumb and Dumber. It was dumb. And dumber.
You good on the whole plot of Tommy Boy?
No, I had a couple
more
follow-ups. Yeah. Like, so Tommy is what's his full legal name? Like Thomas Boy?
Sure. Well, yeah. Thomas Boy.
And so, anybody else that comes to mind that's in the movie too? Like what? Like any other characters? Any other people doing anything besides the deer?
Doing anything is funny. Do you remember a single other character? Because
no. I think I do. Actually,
we can't say that he's seen the movie if all he knows is they run into a deer.
Is Rodney Dangerfield in that movie as well?
See, he got it.
Okay,
he's seen it. You've seen it. You're doing a bit. You're sandbagging like you
don't holding out on us. No, Rodney Dangerfield is not in the movie.
Okay. That was Caddyshack. Caddyshack's a silly movie that I'll give you guys.
Give us Caddyshack.
Thank you for giving me Caddyshack.
I'll give you Caddyshack.
What a gift.
Thank you for that.
One of the great comedies ever. Thank you for that.
It's great.
By the way, Caddyshack, just for the record, is older than we are.
Of course.
Now, Danny's 10 years older than me, so maybe that's your wheelhouse. Caddyshack was butt old when I was a kid.
I mean, it was fun.
Let's not pretend like I'm a kid, Mr. Caddyshack over here.
Fair. It was a silly movie. Caddyshack is. Tommy Boy just was not for me.
Because it's just about hitting a deer.
It's just about hitting.
Yeah, you hit the deer, and then what to do with the deer. It's a coming of age story.
Yeah.
Tommy Boy becomes Tommy Man.
I don't think we're going to squeeze anything else out of this, but I just need everyone to know, how frustrating that is to me, that you could watch such an excellent comedy that's 2 hours. And the only thing you remember is that they hit a deer.
They hit a deer.
And then you tell me, despite not remembering the movie at all, and I don't even know if you've seen it based on that breakdown, that detailed analysis, that it's not good.
Yeah, I know. So how frustrated you are, I got that plus another 10 years on all you guys too. So when you take movies that are like so obviously so incredible and you're like, I'm so bored. I was looking at my phone. Like I know
like Star Wars.
My point is I know the feeling.
Star Wars
I know
stinks.
it intimately. It doesn't. I mean, there's a reason it's the most valuable franchise there is. But like, it's incredible, and I know the feeling. It's frustrating when you're the older one now. I love sitting back and watching you go through what I've gone through for decades.
I don't think this is an age thing.
It 100% is. Young people are stupid, Grant.
No,
that's it.
That's not what this is.
It is.
Clary is a smart guy.
Yeah, but they have no taste. They're like, let's put this unfunny thing over. Because the guy like folds his arms on TikTok.
I think this is us being victims of working with two people very closely who don't know anything about movies, who don't enjoy movies, and who don't know a good movie when they see
But
one.
Darius is a different animal because Darius just doesn't want to see a movie.
I
Like, he's never
understand.
seen any. Ryan like sees it and is like, oh, it's dumb. It's not Scary Movie 7.
Scary Movie 5, actually.
That's the best one.
Darius, why don't you ever see a movie? And I know I'm mad at the wrong guy right now.
Yeah.
But I expect this from Clary. I do.
But especially you,
No,
Darius.
Darius, you and I are so similar in every way. You're at every Marvel movie on opening night. The only thing you botch is that you get nachos instead of popcorn. You stay up like I do till 2 a.m. Like, there's so many movies out there. Like, how do you not watch them?
I just watch so much more live sports. I don't know. I just movies. I don't know. I just missed out on so many of these movies. Yeah, sure. I
You
like
go
movies
to the movies all the time.
for the most part. Yeah.
But it's like Marvel or nothing.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
He's like, yeah, pretty much.
Am I on to anything here, Danny?
You totally are. Yeah.
Doesn't it seem like Darius is a movie? Like, he should be a movie guy.
Well, of course.
I look at Ryan and like his life and the fact that he's just going out to get a slice of pizza in Arlington because there's a guy there who's got new shoes he wants to see and he wants to meet some guy who got a haircut.
Yeah.
Some guy has a new
Like
girlfriend.
this one dude's moving to New York.
Yeah, it's like there's always something, and they're all 22. Like, I get it. He has no time for movies. Darius, you and me, man, we're in this thing together. Like, you should be Mr. Movie, and nothing.
I think in that time where, say, you would watch a movie, I'm playing video games. So that might be what it is. I think my hobby of video games takes over my time slots where I would probably or should watch movies.
That's actually so true.
Well, that's what I was going to suggest is it's that. So, but again, it's like I understand the frustration, or as our buddy Fred Smoot says, frustration. Like, there are so many TV programs in this era. It's the golden age of television that we're in. And you're like, there's a person that's never met this woman. He has to decide in 7 minutes if he's getting married or not. Or here's a formulaic mystery that only lasts 6 episodes. That's your wheelhouse. I'm like, yeah, but Breaking Bad. It's the greatest thing ever made. And you don't watch that.
So
maybe you
I'm
did Breaking
trying
Bad,
to this is about Ryan. I, for some reason, am going at Darius, and you, for some reason, just keep trying to go to
I'm
me.
not going at you. I'm trying to explain
You're
the feeling.
making it about me. I'm making about Darius. How did Ryan get
Ryan
off the
escaped.
hook?
I admit that. You're right. But the point of the dude's story here is
put the eyes of Sauron on the right person.
First of all, great Lord of the Rings reference. Thank you very much. The point of the dude's story is I understand your pain. I empathize.
That was the point.
That's the point.
Quite a weird way to make that point.
Yeah, and I didn't do a great job making the point. I will admit that.
Let's go to AJ in DC. What's up, AJ?
What's going on, GP? What's going on? I just wanted to pivot a little bit just to get it off Darius and Ryan. Speaking of Tommy Boy, is the greatest line from Tommy Boy to me, Fat Man in a Little Jacket? That is the greatest line in it. That is the greatest line.
Little coat. I would listen to that if it were a song.
So good. Well, my favorite scene in Tommy Boy, thank you. I mean, we could do this for an hour if you wanted.
I know.
But when he's getting sprayed with the hose at the gas station, and he's just, I'm a maniac.
It's perfect.
And Rob Lowe, by the way, very different than Rodney Dangerfield, just to be clear.
No, they're the same actor, different stage name.
Rob Lowe looks at him and goes, did you eat paint chips when you were a kid? Such a great
why?
moment.
Over by the inline rotary girders.
There are 2 lines from that movie that I use almost daily in my life. Whenever I hear anyone's name as Herb or Herbie, I always say, it was Herbie Hancock. Remember when he was,
of course,
filling out his test? And then the other one from Tommy Boy that I love so much is Tommy Want Wingy.
Tommy like Wingy. Tommy Want Wingy. There's first again, it's just about perfect. It's only an hour and 35 minutes long, by the way, too. You sprint through this thing.
That's the good stuff.
So the best thing that happens when you have a really good comedy, by the way, nobody makes comedies anymore because everyone's like so afraid. But the best part of comedy.
When was the last good comedy?
I don't know, honestly. Like it's in the O's, like the 05, 07 range.
Everyone's petrified.
Yeah, it's like Anchorman, somewhere in that range, like Step Brothers. But when you have bits from the set that spill out into the movie, right? Where you have, for example, like in Wedding Crashers, Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn like got along so well that like his nickname on the set was Baba Ganoush. So like that makes it into the movie. You know what I mean? Where he's like, hey, the big guy, Baba Ganoush, oh well. And like then they start calling each other that. So like stuff like that happens. Like that's what Chris Farley used to do when David Spade was pissed off.
No Nats tonight. There is Thursday Night Football, but go watch Tommy Boy and then watch Thursday Night Football. There's enough time for everything because it's only a 90-minute film. Tomorrow, Austin Eckler, 5 o'clock, right here on Grant and Danny. Our buddy Toby Altizer with Tobe for Time next.
Thank you for coming.